Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Unpacking Mormonism and other religious trauma. There we go. I'm mixing up the titles of our show. So welcome back to another episode of Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma. We are your hosts, Sarah and Mason Westbrook, and we're excited to be with you today. Audience, we need your help. I think that is my it is my computer that keeps dinging and I can't figure out why it's doing it. So I got to play with it later. I apologize for that. But audience, we need your help. My Unpacking with Sarah show for Thursdays, take a look at Mason's nose hairs there. For Thursdays, we are still editing the final logos, and we would love for your vote and your feedback. Remember that the Unpacking with Sarah episode is strictly mental health. It's psychoeducation, and we are trying to bring to our audience mental health interventions that you can apply in your daily life for improvement. We take a lot of theory, a lot of mental health theory, but in these psychoeducational shows, it's really difficult to take that theory and that education that you're getting and put it into application into your daily life. And so that show is dedicated to bridging that gap and providing interventions from a psychoeducational basis that you can apply in your daily life for improved functioning in whatever area that you are working on. And so we've got two logos for you to decide from. And I would love for you to email me at daisygirlcommunications@gmail.com to let me know which one you like. So on this one, you've got this logo here. I kind of like the one with the white ribbon sticker on the suitcase better than the orange, but I need to hear from you. The word on that is going to say wellness, but I want to know if you like this one better. Do you want it with the white ribbon or the orange ribbon? And then your second option is this one here. Alex, if you could pull up the other logo. And so I'm going to say, how about we call this one Unpacking with Sarah soft or pink? And then the other one, let's call it bold and orange. I want to know which of these logos you would like to be the official Unpacking with Sarah podcast logo. So you've got soft and pink, and we've got bold and orange. And then on the bold and orange, if that's the one you like better, let me know if you like the orange sticker or the white sticker better. And please shoot me an email at daisygirlcommunications@gmail.com. Whichever one is the winner is the one that will become our official Unpacking with Sarah logo for the Thursday mental wellness Bridging the Gap show. So thank you so much.
Now flip back and forth really fast and see if we can induce a seizure.
No. Let's not induce any seizures today. Maybe next time will be that person. All right. Bold and orange or soft and pink. And thanks so much in advance. All right. So Mason, we are talking about I Shit You Not. So did you want to explain, or do you want me to explain where that's coming from?
Go right ahead.
All righty. So
I think you just want to get me to swear on here. And I'm not sure how I
really do, Captain America. You and your hatred of swears and language, even after leaving Mormonism, makes me laugh. Did you want to show your Captain America? Mason's my Captain America. All right, here it is. Steve, he said a bad language word. Mason won't do it. I keep picking on him. Mason's got a little, Alex, if you pull Mason to full screen, he's got a little, the meme in action here that is one of Mason's favorite memes. He's like, I just can't. So Mason needs to do some more shadow work on this, right? All right. So in the ex-Mormon world,
I swear on occasion.
He swears on occasion. I swear.
I've never said the F word.
I swear occasionally in each paragraph that I speak.
Amen, hallelujah.
Amen, hallelujah. All right. So in the ex-Mormon community,
like somebody who's fallen in the pit and just can't get out.
Yeah, like that. There we go. There's my silent swear. Okay. So anyway, in the ex-Mormon community, they've been changing the words "and it came to pass" in the Book of Mormon to "and I shit you not." And we thought that was really funny, but we wanted to kind of pull that into our topic today with the "I shit you not." And so we are going to start with a little story and a meme. And then Mason, you're going to do yours. And we're going to go from there. So ladies before gentlemen, because I said so today. I think it's my 25-year high school reunion. I'm not even sure if it's the 25 or 20. It just might be. So the high
25.
school.
The one that's happening this year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
25.
is 25. Okay, so I was supposed to graduate from high school in 1999. I actually graduated in 1998. And this year is the celebration of the high school I went to. It's their 100-year anniversary. And so what they're doing in Snowflake, Arizona for Snowflake High School is they are celebrating 100 years of Snowflake High School. And every graduating class that is still doing their high school reunions is invited to join in the 100 years of Snowflake High School celebration with their families and spouses. And so things like my graduating class has rented a classroom at the high school. So we're going to get together with snacks and whatnot. And then in the evening, they are holding a 100 years of Snowflake High School dance for the adults. And this little thing came out. So Alex, if you can go ahead and pull up that meme, this came out. And one of the things that's really interesting about this flyer or this meme is we don't know if it's legitimate or not. So there's a Facebook discussion going on that's like, hey, is this real? Is this not real? And the I shit you not is the fact that we don't know, because this is absolutely
plausible.
Right.
It could be accurate.
It is plausible. It could be real. And so that's the I shit you not, is it's just kind of funny to me. And of course I got snarky on it, in the comment thing. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm going to get snarky and really sarcastic about this. And I did it in the feed, and that's just who I am. And I'm just being me. And if it's offensive, I don't give a shit. I've hit the point in my life. Like maybe I'm 60. I don't care what you think of me. I'm good being me. And if you don't like me, fuck off. That's kind of where I'm at. So for those who are listening and not watching, the meme that we don't know if it's accurate or not says Snowflake High School 100 years celebration dance from 5 to 11 o'clock p.m. at Snowflake High School in the large gym. Concessions will be available. Admission is free. And then it says FSY standards. And FSY is the For Strength of Youth, which is the new name of, I got Temple vibes. Woo, your new name. It is the new name of the youth program in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka the Mormon Church. It used to be Young Men, Young Women, and they used to do these conferences called EFY, or Especially for Youth. And then they changed it to For the Strength of Youth, so that it matched the standards booklet, which, you know what, I should have grabbed that. It's the standard booklet of all of these rules that are the standards and moral code that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka Mormons, want their youth to live by. And so this is going to talk about your sexual purity stuff, your language purity stuff, which I've already blown out of the water, your drinking and habit, standards for dating, standards for dress, like whatever. And so when they say that this adult dance is supposed to meet the For Strength of Youth standards, meaning no shorts or skirts, no short shorts, no short skirts, but it doesn't really give you how much is the length. So is my inseam supposed to be longer than 6 inches or 8 inches? Who the hell knows? It says shirts need to cover the stomach, back, and shoulders. No dress that is inappropriate or extreme. And so the thing that makes me laugh is, number one, this is kind of vague. Okay, so here it is. This is let me get this up here. I don't know. There we go. Yes. For the Strength of Youth pamphlet. This is the pamphlet that the Mormon Church puts out that has the standards, the moral code, and standards for youth. And some of it's good and some of it's stupid. I remember, like, for mine, here's another one. This is the one I grew up with. Yeah, this is the one Mason and I grew up with. So if you're a 80s and 90s baby, I think this is the one you would have had. And they've made the language a lot more generalized and lax. So if you pull up that meme again, it says, inappropriate. Well, what defines inappropriate? And so really it's about showing your skin. And I think the I shit you not is this is an adult dance. Not everybody attending this. I mean, most of the people in Snowflake will probably know, but not everybody attending this is Mormon or LDS.
After a statement like that, I can guarantee most people will be.
Most people will be what?
LDS.
Yeah, most of the people in so when I was growing up in Snowflake, it was like 82% of the community was Orthodox, or what we would say active LDS, meaning attending church at least once a month, I believe was the standard even back then. I mean, it's a very little Mormon bubble community. And so, you know, even my friend who's portrayed in my book as Zoe, is she Zoe or Chloe in the book? She's Zoe in the book. I don't remember. This is really bad. I wrote a book and I can't remember the pseudonyms of my best friends. So anyway, she's been on the show. We'll say Zoe or Chloe. I don't remember what I named her in the book. So anyway, but she knew what this meant because she has been living in that area forever. And so anyway, one of the things that Zoe, thank you, Alex said her name is Zoe in the book. I appreciate that. I know her by her real name, not her pseudonym.
Back here and grab the book.
Yeah, go for it. She was familiar with what FSY standards meant because in that community, the youth dances they put on all have these standards. Our youth are not allowed to show their skin. So I've got a friend from high school. He was a trumpet player. I believe he was a year older than me. He may have been 2 years older than me, but I think he was a year older than me, was like, hey, what about my wife? She's hot. She's tatted. I want her to be able to show off her shoulders so y'all are jealous. Like there's some really funny things like, can I wear sandals because my big toe is my best feature? You know, but just kind of the end, I shit you not, is somebody actually trying to police this community? And so Mason, I'm going to turn the time over for you so you can kind of comment on the irony of this. And then I'm going to share my response, which is rude. I'm going to let you know right now, my response is sarcastic and rude because I think it's funny.
Well, there's another story on Facebook that I actually want to share in conjunction with this, but after you do that. But what's ironic to me is that you might as well just write, look, if you don't adhere to our standards, we don't want you there.
Yeah, it's very exclusive.
That's just the irony of it right there. You're talking about adults. If this is a 100-year celebration, you're talking about people anywhere from 18 years old to 88 years old. Like these are people, adults of all walks of life who have lived all over the world probably, that are coming back to meet up with friends that they maybe haven't seen in a long time, and you want to put limits on what they can wear. Like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I understand why Mormons hold those standards, but the problem isn't the standards. The problem is their inability to allow anyone to be themselves in their presence.
Right. And I think the thing for me is that goes along with that is, I just lost my train of thought, is that we're trying to force our religion onto you.
Right.
And if you don't do it our way, you're wrong. And you're influencing our religious beliefs in such a negative way that we can't function unless you do it. So my response on the Facebook post to this, and I'm going to talk about my response. I'm not going to talk in specific detail of others' responses because I don't have their permission. But it says here, leave it to Mormonville. This is what I said. Leave it to Mormonville Snowflake to police adults with a dress code. I was planning on coming dressed as a pole dancer, but not anymore. Are they going to measure my skirt to make sure it's long enough like they did when I was 14? Look out. It's the underwear enforcement squad, not culty at all. And that's what I said. And then I've got one of the organizers of the event, who's also a good friend, said, hey, Sarah, it looks like that was never posted by the people organizing this. So this is false info. Alleluia. And again, my point is it may not have been posted by the people that organized the event. It might have just been a joke, but the plausibility of this actually being real in this community is very, very, very high. And that is, okay, so Shannon is responding, it's respectful to cover your parts. Why do we have to show everything? So, and I'm going to say, we don't have to show everything, Shannon. Not at all do we have to show everything. But why are we policing adults who, for the most part, I don't think adults are going to show up to a high school reunion dressed in, a bikini. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Why are we policing adults? And adults that grew up in this culture, that grew up in this community, who already understand the cultural values. The issue is we don't need a dress code for adults for a celebration of their high school. I mean, how many other high schools in the country are saying that?
So also, let me just give my opinion of that statement. That's a little bit inflammatory in that, why do we have to show everything? Nobody ever talked about showing everything. It's a extremist way of looking at it. Nobody's talking about showing everything. Nobody. What we're talking about is they have standards about what they will or will not allow you to show. That's not their place. It's not, it's a false equivalency. If that's not what's going on, what they're saying is, we don't want you to show these things. And I agree, Shannon, that adults should set the example, but what example? Who sets the standard? Some people don't give a damn what they wear, and other people seem to give a damn way too much about what is worn.
Mason said a bad word.
Well, this is the I shit you not sort of thing, right? This is somebody setting out a standard as if it's acceptable without stepping back and saying, but is it? It's acceptable to me. If it's my standard and that's what I want, fine. I don't have any issues with somebody not wearing low cut shirts or not wearing short shorts or whatever. I don't have any issues with that. I have a real issue with you telling me I can't.
Right. Well, and again, I don't think most adults are going to come out with their boobs hanging out or their Daisy Dukes. Like, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And even, well, number one, I don't think it's a problem. But even if somebody showed up in that, it's not my job to tell them what to wear. And so the adults that feel like they need to set an example can do so by coming dressed in what makes them comfortable. And the adults that are more comfortable in shorter shorts or a shorter skirt or their shoulders coming out, like, right, here we go. Here's my porny shoulder. Fine. This is the I shit you not. Why the hell is somebody coming up with this dress code? And I mean, if we're concerned about body parts, how about we wear is it a hijab? Is that how you say it? A hijab. Why don't we come like all dressed in? Oh, I know. We should all wear the grandma dresses, the muumuus. We should all come to the high school dance dressed in muumuus. Like, come on, people. As an adult, I don't need to be policed. I'm not going to come to an adult dance with my hoo-ha hanging out. I'm just not. But if I wanted to, I could. And for those that it makes uncomfortable, don't look at me. Like, control your own brain. In my opinion, this is super culty. This is an organization telling me and trying to control my dress and my level of comfort for something. I don't think we need it. And gratefully, like I said, one of the organizers says this did not come from the organizers of the event. And I'm so grateful that it didn't come from the organizers of the event. Where did it come from? And even as a joke, totally plausible in this community, which is why it's problematic.
Well, then
go ahead.
Go to any community in the United States or maybe the world. I don't know. Like, you go to a Muslim community, would they set standards like this? Absolutely. Go to a Southern Baptist community, would they set standards like this? Yeah, probably. The point is not so much that people are setting the standards, it's that they're telling other people how they have to behave in a public setting. We're not
in order to participate.
Right. We're not talking about you coming to my house. You know, in my house, if I want to say, look, if you're going to come to my house, I really want you to be here, but you can't wear a bikini. That's my right. But I also have to accept the fact that I'm going to ostracize people that I want in my life.
Right.
And that's part of the issue, is that I'm setting standards for somebody else. This isn't a boundary.
Right.
This is a projection of what you will or will not do. and that's just not appropriate.
Right. And I want to make sure that we iterate that, plausibility is not, like in a court of law, plausibility is not a great argument. But for those in the ex-Mormon community, we identify this as this is common. And in my experience, and Mason, I'm going to let you speak to your experience, but in my experience, this would absolutely fly in that community.
Oh, yeah.
Because the majority of the population is from this singular culture. And
Right.
the issue for me is, if I am feeling very pious and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to this and I don't want to see shoulders, I'm going to make this meme and post it. And most people then might take it as real. That's also problematic. The issue isn't necessarily that, a group of people feel most comfortable when other people are dressed like this. The issue is that it's being placed in a position where it could be considered, this is the rule for this event. You're going to exclude people. You're trying to place control over a group of people. If I want to go and show my shoulders, that is fine. If my culture or my wellness, because I struggle with heat. Anybody, so I have multiple sclerosis. When it gets hot out, I struggle with overheating. I do very well in loose fitting, basically like what I've got on right now. I don't feel like this shirt is a bad example for anybody. Like I said, I'm not wearing a bikini, but this is for my health and wellness. Because when I overheat, my temperature, I can't cool down on my own. If this was real, I wouldn't go.
For me, the issue,
and not because I'm making a modesty statement, but because
it would be a health issue for you.
Right. For me, it's a health issue. You're in a great big gym with who knows how many people at a dance. I need to wear something where the breeze gets to my armpits and my stomach so that I can literally cool off so I don't pass out and have a seizure or something. And our producer here is saying, you know what, this was the rule almost verbatim at his Catholic school. Again, if this was a religious dance, fine. It matches your religious standards, but this isn't. It's public. So I'm kind of feeling like we're belaboring the point. So let's start to wrap that up. But yeah, Mason, go ahead.
Last piece for me, the problem that I have is that you're advertising it as an inclusive event, but you're actually making it exclusive event. And these people will never know who they ostracize because of something like this. People that want to be there, maybe even people you want to see, won't show up because they won't do that. And you'll never know. You'll never know that they didn't come. You'll never know why they didn't come. You'll just know that they weren't there, even if you even pay attention to the fact that they weren't there.
That's I do want to end this topic once again with, from one of the organizers of the event, this is not legitimate. If it was done, as a joke or as some other malicious intent, it is harming the people who are seeing this, in the sense of my level of comfort coming to something that is a part of who I am, to celebrate my heritage, may be excluded. And it's that demonstration of trying to control. And Shannon, you say it goes both ways, but I'm not necessarily certain what you're referring to.
Yeah. Can you
clarify a little bit? Yeah. All right. And that's our sister-in-law, by the way. So one of the things, I just want to put this out here. Shannon, I love you. You and I both know we're both very opinionated women. And one of the things that I love is we can have these types of discussions and love each other entirely. And so I definitely want to make sure that I throw that out there for my audience who may be watching this and getting frustrated, that may be getting frustrated and whatnot. Shannon and I do this on the regular, and we are still very close. We're very good friends, and we respect each other entirely. So one of the reasons why I want our audience to see this discussion and this, disagreement on a point or the differing opinions is because I want to be able to set that example that you can disagree and still have a positive relationship. So Shannon, I love you. Thank you for that. Shannon says it goes both ways as you're going to ostracize people that don't want to see people just dressed I'm going to say dressed instead of just.
She clarified there.
Yeah, so dressed scandalously. And I would say, Shannon, can you clarify what about that dress code do you feel is scandalous? Because I don't think my back is very scandalous. I mean, how low cut becomes scandalous, shorts, like describe scandalous for you. And I would say that in a public setting, we're not saying if you don't like the way I look, don't come. But I mean, you're going to find if you don't like seeing the way that people are dressed because it's scandalous, are you avoiding the beach? Are you avoiding Disneyland? Are you avoiding, going to the public zoo? Are you avoiding going to the grocery store? Those types of things. If you're choosing not to go to a public event because the way that people who aren't a part of your religious community are dressed, that's your choice as part of your religious practice, rather than you can't come unless you are adhering to my religious practice at a community event. So again, if this was a church sponsored event, have all the rules you need because it's a part of your religious freedom to do so. At a public event, it's not appropriate to be telling people what they can and cannot do, in my opinion.
So I agree with that statement. I think so there's what Shannon says. She says, and you just hit it for me. I can't see it now. I think shoulders are fine.
Right there. Alex put it up.
I think skirts that don't show your hoo-ha when you bend over or not, or if you bend over and your chest is falling out. I mean, I understand those things. I agree with those things personally. I just don't agree with the fact that I have the right to tell you to dress that way. If it's a public event, you come the way that you want to come. And if it makes me so uncomfortable, I need to walk away, I think I need to check myself. Either I need to check, why is it making me so uncomfortable? And what do I do with that? Because now I'm restricting myself. But that's the difference, is I'm restricting myself. If Shannon shows up and she says, screw you, I'm going to dress any way I want, and she bends over and she's got no underwear on or whatever, scandalous as you say, then I have to check myself and decide, but I've made the decision. Right. You haven't made the decision for me. I've made the decision. And that's my issue, is that you as a community or as a planning group or whoever this is, you're saying, don't show up if this is the way that you're dressed, when what should be happening is show up. We want you there. We want everybody there. Well, and however you are, whoever.
Keep in mind, this is not a family event.
Right. This is
an adult only. So this is supposed to be graduates from Snowflake High School and their significant other or others, depending on how you are. I mean, are we going to make a post that says you can only bring one significant other if you're living in a polyamorous relationship style? I mean, I am monogamous, but if you're not, bring your partners. But it is an adult only event. Children are not going to be there. So if you see my hoo-ha sticking out of my pants and you don't like it, look the other way. You have controls of your eyeballs. You have control of your thoughts. You have control of your responses. If it's arousing for you, you have control of how to manage that arousal. And then just to reiterate here, I'm going to show this comment. I love Sarah, just for the record. Again, that's just kind of reiterating. Shannon and I have these types of conversations all the time, and we get along beautifully. And this is the example I want. I want us to be able to live in a world where we can disagree on things and be civil and loving and still get our kids together for family reunions, which Shannon, we are definitely overdue. Go ahead, Mason.
And we don't have to walk away having agreed about it. This is a conversation where we share our different opinions. Can I take it from this bigger, broader, big reunion event and pull it down to a more personal thing? I just want to tell this story off of Facebook real quick because I think it's helpful on this idea, and then maybe we can move on. But
yeah.
So somebody posts this. So guys, I need your advice. I'm about to go to our Lake House family reunion. My parents are TBM, True Believing Mormons,
or True Blue Mormon.
The rule has been no bikinis. Fine. We won't wear bikinis. This morning, I woke up to this text from my mom because of these 2 pictures I put on our family group chat. I'm too emotionally tied up in it to see it logically. I'd love your thoughts. Let me show you the pictures. So that
Do
you
we have faces taken out?
I don't think you can see anything that's important there, but just a quick little look at just the dressing. You know, one's in a bikini, one's in a midriff. Okay.
And sleeveless.
Right. And so then she says, so this is the text she got from her mom. Good morning, name. I need some advice. The pictures you sent from Puerto Rico perfectly depict exactly how we hope the daughter and all the girls will not dress while at the lake house. How do I let your daughters know that we would like them to wear a bra underneath their shirts? We'd like to avoid another incident like that occurred 2 years ago that to this day has lasting damaging effects on family relationships. So my
titties can damage your relationship. I mean, if they're in your mouth, somebody's mouth maybe, but not.
That's the problem. That's the concern for me, is that 2 years ago, something similar to this happened. It sounds like this daughter wore something that they didn't like, and it has, in her opinion,
been a topic of conversation for an extended period of time.
Damaged their relationship for 2 years now over something that she wore. And my guess is she didn't show up naked. So then she says,
well, and even if she did, why would that be problematic?
Well, I can
it would
understand.
Be uncomfortable.
I can understand why it'd be an issue if somebody showed up naked to a family event. I get it,
right?
But that's probably not what happened, based on what we're saying.
Story though, pause, time out. I remember as a kid at a family reunion, my mom and all my aunts went skinny dipping. And it was like, okay, guys, you have to go to bed. Like the little kids have to go to bed. You're not allowed out. Daddies and uncles, you're policing things and shutting the blinds. And my mom, I don't think my mom got naked, but her sisters did. And they all jumped in the lake in the Adirondack Mountains and had a fabulous time. It's okay.
So the next
nudity's not bad.
So the next part of this is then this grandmother, I guess, says, should I message your girls personally?
Oh.
Or is this something that would be better handled by you? Thanks for your help. Love, Mom.
Right.
So then the picture's there, and
well, and looking, I just want to reiterate for those who are not watching this on the video, the outfits were very common things that you would see worn in a tropical climate like Puerto Rico. We're talking about like a maxi skirt, a shirt that's a couple inches above the waistline, and shoulders. Like there was no boob falling out. And even if there was, why are boobs so, why are breasts bad? They're just boobs.
And the problem here is that
July in Puerto Rico.
Right. The problem here is that what it looks like is grandma feels like she's setting a boundary when what she's doing is she's controlling someone else's behavior.
Because it makes her uncomfortable. Right. She's not taking ownership for, I would have never dressed that way because if I had dressed that way, I would not have felt comfortable being in public.
And it's affecting family relationships. Right. So this grandma is not even comfortable being around her grandchildren because of what they're wearing. Who's losing here? The reality is everyone is losing. You're affecting a very important relationship over something that somebody is wearing.
Yeah.
So I want to read a comment. This is just because this woman was asking for advice. Well, somebody put a comment here, and I'd like to read it simply because of the potential problems that exist.
Well, and I want to share something. So our producer asked the question, why do you think modesty should be the standard? Why is it about how we're dressing? Why is that the standard? What if hedonism was the standard? What if, alcoholism was the standard? What if
who sets the line?
Who sets that
who draws
line?
The lines?
And how does at an adult thing, shoulders, backs, cleavage, thighs, how does that harm anybody?
So
Go ahead.
I shit you not moments, right?
Right. I shit you not.
Actually said this. So this is the comment somebody writes as if they were this woman. Good morning, Mom. Here's my advice. The pictures I sent from Puerto Rico perfectly depict exactly who daughter is, and all the girls should have agency while at the lake house. Please don't let daughters know how they should dress. They're beautiful, strong women who can make their own choices. We too would like to avoid another incident like that occurred 2 years ago with the daughter, and that to this day has lasting damaging effects on family relationships and her well-being. Please don't message my girls personally. I will let them know that we will no longer be attending the reunion, because accepting them as who they are is more important than what they wear. I'm not comfortable putting them in a situation that can possibly have lifelong effects on their mental and physical well-being. Thanks for your input. Hope you can learn to love unconditionally as Christ does. Love, daughter. And of course, there's a little bit of snark there, especially at the end. You're
Just a little bit of passive
something,
aggressiveness in
right?
that
Saying
comment.
something like, "I hope you can learn to love the way Christ does," can be a very passive-aggressive, snarky comment. But and I don't know that she's going to say something like that, but the potential exists that someone might say, "Well, you know what? I'm not going to the family reunion then," over something like a swimsuit. And I understand that some people have those strong standards about that, but the problem is oftentimes we have those standards, they don't recognize the people that they're pushing away, and if they did, they might change what they're doing.
Right.
Because having the granddaughter with me is far more important than the fact that I can see her belly button.
Right. Well, because you're focusing on, oh my gosh, all I can see is your shoulders, and God doesn't want your shoulders to show. And oh my gosh, that
Right.
you're missing the person.
Right. I can't see the daughter because all I can see is the skin.
Absolutely. So I would say, let's answer the question, who gets to set the standards, and how those standards would be beneficial, because I'm a firm believer, and if you disagree with me, please do, that as an adult with a fully formed frontal cortex, I set the standards for myself, and I set the standards for the children over whom I have stewardship, because my name is on their birth certificate or on court documents in some cases for my family.
Well,
But that
and you
once
said fully developed cortex, right?
Fully
We're talking
developed.
about kids that don't have that. Like our 20-year-old
No.
kid, I'm saying your 22-year-old kid, we don't set his standards anymore.
No,
a
because
fully
he's an
developed
adult.
So that's
Right.
all I'm saying.
And
is that
so-
we don't control them anymore
Right.
at
And
all.
in my family, I control what they wear when they're itty bitty. And usually that's, you have to be covered appropriately for the weather and the environment that you're attending. Otherwise, I don't really care what you wear. But then as my kids get older, like, I don't control what our 16-year-old daughter wears anymore. Right. She controls that. And sometimes she dresses in things that I'm like, whoa, girl, that does not look comfortable. And for the record, it's because she wears hoodies in the middle of July in Missouri. And I'm like, you're going to die of heat stroke in there, kiddo. Like I said, I don't control that at all. And I might make suggestions if there are things that, like for my 6 years, if I'm like, honey, that is not what you're wearing out of this house. You are welcome to wear that when you move out of my house. But again, as their brain begins to develop to the point where they're able to make safe and healthy choices for themselves based on developmental markers, not religious markers, because my opportunity to teach my children core values and whatnot, that happens, between like birth and like 14. And then you start to hit those teenage years. And that's where kids are testing the limits and figuring it out for themselves. I'm here as a guide. I'm here to set boundaries. I'm not here to control. Okay. Anybody who tries to control their teenagers is going to experience probably very rebellious teenagers, probably.
Well, and that's where you need to understand developmental psychology and that kind of thing.
Right.
What impact are your choices in the way that you're, talking to them about those kind of things? What impact are you going to have? Are you going to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish if you say you can't walk out of my house wearing those things, because it's almost cliche? Okay, well, I'll put those things in my backpack and I'll change later.
Right.
I'd rather know. I wouldn't like it, but I'd rather know that that's what they're wearing because they're making that choice than that they have to stuff it in a backpack and make the change when I don't know what's going on tonight. So
right. So I'm actually gonna reach out. Hey, Julia, welcome to the show today. I know that Julia saw this post in the forum. Julia, did you think that that post was a real standard? So I've heard from one of the organizers. Yeah. So Julia, I've heard from one of the organizers that said this did not come from the organizers of the reunion. But Julia, when you saw that, did you think it was real? And if so, why? And then while Julia responds, so I'm going to give her a second. Shannon, you asked the question, so where do your values come from? And I want to kind of speak to this. I think that one of the things that religion gets wrong is that values come from and standards come only from God. And if you look at the atheist community, one of the most generous people I have ever known in my entire life is my biological grandfather on my father's side of the family. One of the most generous men I've ever met. He was atheist, fully atheist. He was the kindest person in the sense of helping people financially. He offered jobs in his very successful business. He was a difficult man emotionally. I actually wonder sometimes if he may have been on the autism spectrum, but he had values. He had financial prowess. He was very good with his money. He was a good man. I felt welcome in his home. Sometimes I was confused with how he would respond to things. Again, I'm pretty certain he may have been on the autism spectrum. Standards and values, I believe, and please note that I'm speaking from a place of belief, come from our need to survive and coexist in communities. And as you're in a community, the standards and the rules and the structure come as you coexist with other people. And that comes and exists in environments where there is a religious belief or a mythological value system. So, you think Greek mythology and those, like when I'm saying myth, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about things that we like, Aesop's fables and Greek mythology, which was a religion at some point. The values and standards come from how we're coexisting within our communities. And so I love what my producer is messaging me, which is values are cultural norms. Used to keep peace and order based on geographical location and distance to other people. And I agree with your statement, Alex, 100%, in the sense of certain values and morals shift based on where you are in the world. If you look at societies that are topless, there's no problems with showing your breasts. Like you go to these societies and it's kind of goofy that it's not. Mason, I'm going to have you comment on that, and then I'm going to show Julia's response because
well, my thought on that statement is then where do your values come from? I think that's a terrific conversation to have. Where do your values come from? Where can they come from? It can be a long conversation. It can be very valuable. But when it comes to setting standards in a community, who makes the call and what does it matter where the values come from? It almost feels like when you ask the question, well, where do your values come from? It's another controlling statement. For me, it feels that way. And I know it's not always that way. I'm going
to disagree with that, and I'll explain why I missed.
I don't even know that that's what Shannon's doing. I don't think it is.
No.
For me, it feels a lot like, well, then where do your values come from? It feels like a statement of trying to corral someone into the way that you believe about something. And I think it's dangerous, like in this public forum or even in the private forum that I just shared. Well, it's almost like saying, well, then you don't have values, which just isn't true. You don't have my values, so you must not have any values. And that's just ostracizing, and it's not true.
Right. Well, and I'm going to say, Mason, I disagree with you. I don't think that. I know. Get out of here. Fuck off. Okay. He's gone. Bye. I'm in control.
You were in control before.
Damn it. Okay. Mason's pretend
You're always in control.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna quote Clinton Anderson, who is a horse trainer with a lot of intense emotions about how he trains horses. But he says frustration begins where knowledge ends. And so I think that one of the reasons why the question that Shannon had asked, where did it come from? Okay, so Shannon had asked, so where do values come from? And I'm going to say that Mason, the reason I think that might feel like a controlling statement is because sometimes we're going to say, I don't know. I'm going to say that I grew up in a Mormon culture, and that culture, that community absolutely shaped my morals, values, and standards today.
Without question.
But when I then study other cultures and I visit other cultures, in Hawaii before modernization, they wore grass skirts and they wore very little to cover certain body parts. In African societies, they're topless. In other societies, I know that many societies in France and Europe are naked. And it's the norm. And it's like when we look at crime against bodies, the statistics are pretty much very similar. And in fact, what we're seeing is that in super, super strict societies that control every detail, like how you dress and how you talk and how you do these things, they actually have a higher rate of aggressive or violent crime than societies that are looser about dress. And that's the studies that we see. And if you want those, shoot me an email at daisygirlcommunications@gmail.com and I can send that to you. I wasn't expecting to talk about that. I'm going to have to find it and see if we can put it in the show notes. And I'm really good at forgetting to do that. So if you want the references for that, please reach out to us and I can send that to you. That we see more violent crime or sexual crime in societies that have very strict moral modesty codes. And when I say moral, I'm talking about religious moral. We see that, especially in high demand religious societies, we see a lot more sexual crime against victims and whatnot versus societies that are much looser. I think being curious about where values come from is perfect. And our producer actually says, I think that's beautiful. Declaring some more moral than others leads to war. And I agree that when the issue is that when we say my morals and values are right and yours are wrong, that's where the issue lies. Yeah. And when I say my morals are the better one and you can't attend a public function unless you're following my religious values, there's problems there. All right, so let's take a look at what Julia said. So we had asked Julia, did you think that it was real? Did you think that this meme that went out was real? And so Julia says, for those that are listening to the podcast and not watching us on YouTube, Julia says, yes, I did think it was the real standard. I didn't even go to school there, but my husband did. Yes, your husband and I were in the band together. He's one of my great friends. Just knowing the standards of a majority of the community, I wouldn't have been surprised had they come back and said, yes, this is the standard. She then goes on to say, thankfully it isn't, and the organizers are not the ones who sent that out. We have no idea who did. And I think, again, Julia, I don't know how long you've been with us. I think the issue is whoever created that, it was plausible that it was real. And therefore, what is the standard? And now there's this, this post and people questioning is this real? Is this not? Again, for a public adult event. And then Julia says, also, I'm not saying that someone else's standards are bad just because they aren't the same as mine, but don't try to push your standards on me because you don't agree with mine, if that makes sense. And I agree 100%. And I think that's the end. I shit you not. Part of our show today is it's very plausible in this community that somebody would come out and say publicly, we need to follow the same standards that are set for the religious majority of the community. And then I absolutely love here what Shannon says. I'm generally curious where your values come from. Everyone has different values and that's okay. Just where do they come from? And so Shannon, are you asking that question specific of Mason and I? Or are you asking that as just kind of a general, I'm curious and enjoy hearing about other values and standards and how they're formed over time? Okay, so yeah, she says, yes, Mason, what are yours and mine? I'm going to say mine were grossly shaped in my Mormon community. And now I would say that the morals and values that I have now have grown more into my psychological based community, the research that we've done to better understand humanity and culture and societies and connection through those tribal patterns that all humans have, and that I want to make sure that my morals and values are such that as my children find their own communities and have their own moral and values influenced and based on those communities, I want them to know that even if I don't agree, or I don't dress like you, or I don't behave like you, that your dress and your behaviors are welcome, appreciated, and embraced in my home, as long as they are not causing harm to the other people in my home. And when I talk about harm, I'm not talking about challenging a belief system. I'm talking about acting upon somebody in a manner that is inappropriate. I'm talking about criminal harm. I'm talking about removal of somebody's freedom of expression, removing somebody's voice from them. I'm not okay with that. Mason, how about you? Do you want to comment on where you feel yours come from?
Sure, but first, what I love about that statement by Shannon is that it's a follow-up statement, right? It's hard to get somebody's meaning completely from a text. And so as you're having these conversations, I make comments about something that she said that she's able to clarify, yeah, that's not what I meant. I was really just genuinely asking. I love that.
Right.
Because that is the most important piece to having a real discussion about something, especially if you don't agree, is if you can't ask clarifying questions, what happens? We just beat heads because I think I know what Shannon means, or Shannon thinks she knows what I mean, and we don't have a conversation. We just get angry. So if we can ask the clarifying questions, it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Honestly, when it comes to my morals, same thing, my morality or, sense of modesty or whatever, that all stems from my Mormon upbringing. Where do I sit now? I don't have any clue.
He's
really.
Still experimenting.
Well, and part of the issue is that
sorry, Mason, I just
if you grow up
Sorry.
if you grow up in a community where in a very real sense, if a woman walked by and was not appropriately dressed, and I had arousal or feelings or felt like I wanted to stare a little bit longer than was appropriate, quote unquote.
Right, quotes, lots of quotes.
That was her fault. And I didn't have to really, I take ownership of that a little bit, but there's a lot of blame that goes on to, well, if she hadn't worn that,
then I wouldn't have gotten aroused.
Have that feeling.
Right.
And I'm working hard to get away from that, but it's incredibly difficult. For one, it's a normal response. You see someone that's attractive to you, it's normal to have some arousal or some interest or whatever, and then you make the decision, of course, whatever you want, to pursue that or not pursue that. For me, when it comes to my morals and values, who the hell knows?
Well, and I want to put it this way, one of the things that's problematic there is that we were taught from the time we were little that seeing skin was evil, bad, wrong. And so then when you have a feeling that's uncomfortable, when you have a feeling about seeing the skin, we interpret that feeling as, oh, this feeling is now evil, bad, and wrong. And it's not. And so, one of the experiences that I've had in my life is I have participated in nude community events. And I've talked about that before on the show. And one of the things that's beautiful about that is the people there are not viewing skin as bad, evil, or wrong. And therefore, the novelty of seeing these things isn't there. And I'm going to tell you that my experience and the research shows that when you're taught that skin is not bad, evil, wrong, or it doesn't, if you see my breast, it doesn't all of a sudden mean I want to have sex with you or that you want to have sex with me. We take that piece away. Men are not walking around with boners touching everybody like that. It's just not what happens. It's
or feeling guilt because that's
right. And we have this mixed message in that a woman, we're going to fight all day long about, can a woman nurse in public without a cover on? And oh my goodness, this poor baby is covered in a blanket in the heat because some, dudes can't manage watching nature happen in front of them. You know, we argue about this. And then you go to other societies where women are topless and toddlers are sucking on their nipples while they're, you know, shucking the corn or snapping peas on the side. It's just a part of life, and they have a different response. Like, we've got to really begin to challenge, you know, where does this belief system come from? I love what my producer sent us here in the private chat. He says there has to be room for the experimental once you see how it applies to real world situations all over the world.
So experiential.
I'm sorry, experiential. Yeah. Right. There has to be room for the experiential once you see how it applies to real world situations all over the world. Ideas without mileage equals bullshit. And I love that. Was it Mark Twain who said,
travel gets rid of prejudice?
Right. Travel gets rid of prejudice. I think the other thing, and I'm going to apply this to something completely different. And then Mason, I think we're going to skip your part because we're already at almost an hour. We ran away with mine. So maybe at the next show, we can do what Mason was going to do, and we'll let him take the lead.
Can we at least read what she said? Because I think it applies a lot to what we're talking about.
No, I think we should wait. I think we should wait.
She's in control.
I think we should wait, because I think that the next show, and maybe we could even do it next week or here soon, so that way we can kind of build on this. I think that would be a good idea. But one of the things that really stuck out to me is, you know, I grew up, quote unquote, poor. My father was a teacher. He had to work. Oh goodness. I think my dad worked anywhere from 3 to 4 jobs in the year. Like, he had at least 2 jobs during the school year. No, he worked 3 jobs. He was a referee. He was a teacher. And then in the summers, he worked at a truss company in Snowflake, Arizona, building trusses and delivering trusses for a company for us to make ends meet. And I grew up for a really long time going, we were so poor. We were so poor. We didn't have name brand clothes. And we ate, you know, simple food. And my mom cooked everything from scratch. And we never went out to restaurants. Oh my God, we were so poor. And then Mason and I had the opportunity to travel to Belize. Absolutely beautiful country in the tropics just south of the Yucatan in Mexico. Hot as hell. Holy fucking crap, hot as hell. And people were living. Language. Oops. People were living in tin shacks, like literally lean-tos. No utilities, no fresh water coming in. Goats and animals everywhere. And I no longer felt like I grew up poor. I was very privileged. My dad was a teacher, and I was privileged. And then I started to feel really ashamed of our 4,000 square foot home. That I feel most comfortable in because my special needs kids can get away from each other. So, it's like perception is huge, and mileage destroys prejudice, and it opens our eyes. It really does. It's that experience stuff. And Shannon, you say, thank you for your honesty. I never had these feelings, experiences in my upbringing in church, it seems, or could be wrong. There is a lot of shame associated with this religion. I think there's a lot of shame associated with most religions. And it's a matter of digging into that to understand where that shame is coming from so that you can open your eyes. But you also have to do that in your own readiness and time zone, because if I push you into it, it's not helpful. Go ahead, Mason.
I love that statement, because what you basically said, Shannon, is that your experience was different than our experience, is different than their experiences, is different than their experiences. One of the things I love about this podcast and the form that we've tried to communicate or to create, especially with the live shows, is the ability for us to share experiences. We grew up Mormon, to both of us, and your experience was different than my experience. Part of that because you have a vagina and I have a penis, right? But there's other things as well. Your experience is different than my experience. And if we can't talk about it, we can't understand what kind of things go on. My guess would be 80% of the people who actually would have gotten that message about this event didn't affect them negatively in one way or the other. We're like, yeah, everybody was planning on doing that's great, cool. We won't see short shorts there. But it's the other people that have a different experience that we're not allowing into our lives. We're not able to be empathetic and go, oh, well, what about George? He wouldn't want to dress that way. Or what about Susan? she's not going to be comfortable like that. What about Sarah, who can't be out in the heat?
I need
We
armpits
have-
exposed.
We have to be empathetic, but we can't do that if we don't allow for the possibility that someone else's experience is different than ours and still valid.
Well, and I think it's important to recognize that there were those comments. Like people are like, sounds great to me. I have no issue with this.
Right.
And then what Julia says in response to, you know, posting, oops, sorry, Alex, I took it away. Can you put it back up, Alex? That's my fault. Julia says, I think that was the problem with the post. Is that some people got offended and thought that, so Julia, I think you did share that post. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. So Julia reshares it. And she goes, some people got really super offended and thought that we were just trying to start an issue. And in fact, we were just being curious. We were just trying to find out if it was true or not. It wasn't something we made up. It wasn't a prank or anything. Again, because of the majority of the community, we thought that it was absolutely plausible that this was sent out. Hence the reason Billy, who is our friend Billy Martin, played the trumpet, that's a year or two older than me, said he would just ask in the group. And so again, that's where that, you know, frustration comes in when there's no knowledge, but it also comes in when, you know, that we talk about that persecutory complex of, if you're asking a question and you're being generally curious, but it goes against that religious belief, then we end up in this place of offense of, you know, this is the Mormon standard and whatever. And then you end up in this stupid argument. I shit you not. This is a real thing going on Facebook right now. Out of people who grew up together, like we're all back in high school again all of a sudden. And I shit you not, they really did measure my shorts to make sure that my inches from my knee to where the short ended was appropriate. And I never had a problem with it because, y'all, I'm a short little girl. And my tall friend who had the same length inseam, it was a problem for her. Like, it's just,
But
So,
there
anyway.
again, we just assume that we understand.
right, there's an
Somebody
assumption.
posts something like that, we assume that they're trying to get a rise out of people or whatever.
Right, rather than genuine
Instead of us
curiosity.
being curious and saying, "Hey, how come you're posting this?" Well, I'm posting it because I really want to know what's going on here. And blah blah blah.
Right, and I think that that's where that defensiveness over religion really causes communication differences, because when you push against the religion, it's like, oh, you're an apostate, you're harming us, versus, hey, is this real or is this fake?
Right.
And
Why is this such an issue for some people?
Right.
What's going on here? What's the big deal? I don't see the big deal. What's the big deal from you? And then you can explain it. You can talk about it and say, well, this is why it bothers me. So it's kind of like what we're doing
well,
today.
and Julia's right. Like she's saying, you know, she has people coming at her in this post as if she was the original poster, as if she was the one that created the meme.
Right.
And, you know, and it was really, I loved Billy's response. Julia, what a great way to support you about how hot you are and, you know, your beautiful artwork on your body. And this is why I was like, oh my gosh, I was planning on coming dressed as a pole dancer. But now I won't, because, you know, the standard, because the standard, thank you. Squirrel, because the standard was such. So yes, Julia, I agree with you. It was super sweet of him. So anyway, we are now running over time, and I really want to respect the time of the people behind the scenes that are making this show possible. I also feel, again, like we've had a really great discussion today. So thank you so much to everybody that has joined us today. One more time, though, I want to make sure that you guys are aware of the vote. My new show that is specific to mental health only. We won't be talking about religion. The Thursday show, we need to know which logo y'all like better. Do you like this one, bold and orange, for the Thursday show, Unpacking with Sarah? Or do you prefer the soft and pink one for that show? We will be taking mental health interventions that I teach clients every day in clinic. We are going to take these, we're going to make them available to the general public. We are going to take theory and ideas into practice. How can I take the wisdom of somebody like Brene Brown or Gabor Mate and pull that in and really enhance and become the person I want to become That's what our focus is at Unpacking with Sarah. Thursday mornings at 9, I will always have a coffee with me in that show, because at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm sipping my coffee because I'm no longer Mormon. So I don't mind being a sinner and going to hell for the beautiful caffeinated beverage. Julia, it was great to see you. I think you're new to our show, and we absolutely loved having you. Hope you can join us later. And everybody
too.
else,
Thank you
yes,
for being here.
Shannon, great to have you here. Thank you to have you here and
It
see you
really
again.
adds to the show to have people
And
that are
Michael,
able to
yeah.
comment and just
Yes.
share
So
their
as
opinions.
we grow, please share our show, click like, click subscribe. It really helps our visibility. Thank you so much. And as always, if you are in mental health crisis, please remember 988 is there for you to text and call. I've used it before. They really helped me work through a moment where me, as a mental health counselor who knows all the answers and knows all the things you're supposed to say to somebody in crisis, still needed this when I was in crisis. Because remember, when you're in crisis, when you are mental health overwhelmed, your frontal cortex turns off and thinking clearly just becomes very difficult and oftentimes impossible. So please, if you're in crisis, use that. If you'd like to throw us a couple bucks and support the show and help us pay our staff a livable and industry standard wage, here's our Venmo account. You're welcome to toss us a couple bucks. We'd appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next time. I shit you not. We're going to be there. Bye.